The Australian property market has witnessed its biggest decline on record, with further falls on the cards. Joining me is Chief Investment Officer at the Motley, Scott Phillips. Scott, great to see you. How much did home values plummet?
Danica, good morning. The bad news for those who own their own homes, and particularly those who are looking to sell, is home prices have fallen 8.4% so far from the high in May. Not coincidentally, when the RBA started to raise rates, until the most recent data available according to CoreLogic. Now, a quick asterisk, it is, as you said, the biggest fall on records, both the fastest and the furthest prices have fallen. Again, probably no surprise. Numbers are up about 21% in 2021. So a comeback from that is probably, as I said, no big surprise. There is, though, a different methodology being used. The most recent data is a daily house price index. All the historical data is monthly. Look, it shouldn't matter over the long term, but just worth keeping that in mind. Either way, as you said, the biggest fall on record and a very, very high likelihood of more to come. We've got two things happening. The RBA is going to continue to raise interest rates almost certainly in 2023. We might see somewhere between 2 and maybe 4 or 5, depending on who you listen to, rate rises. I tend to think it might be fewer rather than more, but that's the range. The other thing, by the way, is we've got to remember a whole lot of people are coming off fixed rate mortgages back to variable right through 2023. The vast bulk will start probably April or May. Now, as that happens, that also puts further pressure on those who may decide they can't afford or don't want to afford the higher rates and may add to some selling pressure. So plenty to come down the pike, plenty more happening, I think, on the housing front. Very likely, I would suspect we see double-digit falls at some point. I don't know if it gets much worse than that, really, honestly. It does come down to how desperate people are to sell and also, of course, what buyers can afford. And we should remember that's actually good news for some people. Those who are looking to get onto the property ladder can, at least at the moment, buy much cheaper than they could in May of last year.
Yeah, exactly, but still difficult times ahead by the sounds. Now, Macquarie Bank says consumer data of Christmas spending was great, but there's a slowdown looming.
Yeah, that is. Look, I'm going to put just a caution on this one because that's the general view by most economists, most people, and probably is going to happen, but we shouldn't necessarily assume it will just because experts predicted it. Very few people predicted COVID 6 months before it happened. So we need to keep that in mind. Anything can happen to the economy. As you say, as you rightly say, the key challenge is, yes, Christmas was great. We really spent up the first kind of unrestricted, unfettered Christmas in quite a few years, and people took full, useful advantage of that. The Macquarie data, as well as other data we've seen across the economy, were very, very good. Black Friday sales were good. Christmas sales were good. Not only retail, but also things like hospitality, cafes, restaurants, that kind of stuff. So we went and spent up big. We've just talked about house prices, though. We've talked in the past about inflation and everything else that's happening in the economy. It does seem like, to Macquarie's point, those two don't go together for very, very long. If you're paying more for your mortgage, if you're paying more for everything else at the pump, at the till, everywhere right across the economy, and yet we know wages aren't going up, we know rates continue to rise. Coming into the new year, maybe a bit of a credit card debt hangover. Maybe people simply say, hey, that was fun, but now it's time to kind of get back to tightening the belt and dealing with higher cost of living right across the economy.
Yeah, the reality faces you after spending big, using that credit card over the Christmas times. Don't I know it? Scott Phillips, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks, Danica. Good morning.